This is Sophie and Jumong Part 23. Let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is over there. Morning sunlight washed over the Lee mansion's private study. Chairman Lee stood whistling lightly as he prepared for a shower, his phone resting on the carved table near the window. Madam Lee, seated across the room, watched him through half-lowered lashes. When she heard the soft hiss of running water, her eyes flicked to the phone as it buzzed with a message. She rose, crossed the floor silently, and read the words on the bright screen. "Father, meet me at my office this afternoon. We must discuss tomorrow's departure." A chill pricked her veins like tiny blades. Her mouth tightened, the mask she wore every day slipping enough to show the raw wound beneath. "So he plots his future without me. He thinks he is free." She set the phone back just as Chairman Lee stepped back into the room, humming, towel over his shoulder. She smiled at him, soft, harmless, but her mind was already turning. She plotted with Kang Soo and Dartmouth. Once alone in her private suite, she locked the door, sat before her dressing table, and opened a hidden drawer to retrieve a plain black phone. Her ghost line. She dialed a number she hadn't needed in years. A voice answered on the second ring, crisp, familiar. "Kang Soo, it's me. Listen carefully. There is a girl, Sophie. By dawn I want her taken. No harm, no witnesses. He must wake up tomorrow and find nothing but silence beside him. Use Dartmouth too. His loyalty is cheap, but he obeys." Kang Soo's voice, calm and obedient, replied, "Understood, swift, silent, done." She ended the call and rested the phone on her palm, her reflection in the mirror pale but burning. "He lives because I allowed it. Now he will learn what I can still take away." But power like hers never hid for long. That afternoon, deep in Jumong's private office, Elias leaned over Mira's shoulder, the brilliant Korean hacker who tracked every whispered rumor for Jumong. Through a secure line, street watchers had already reported Dartmouth moving unmarked vans near Gina's district. Mira tapped the screen, a faint smirk on her face. "It's her again. The plan is solid, but not better than ours." Elias spoke without turning from the feed. "Tell Young, we sealed the villa tonight. Sophie must not know. And when that snake comes here, we bury her with her own tongue." Elias moved Sophie without alarm. That night, Sophie lay curled up on the couch at Gina's villa, eyes drifting shut as Gina whispered about Paris and wedding dreams. A quiet knock made Gina flinch. The door opened. Elias stood there in his dark coat, calm and commanding. "Stand up," he said, voice gentle but leaving no room for questions. "No bags. You're coming with me." Sophie blinked, confused. "What's wrong? Is Jumong okay?" "Perfectly okay because you're leaving now. Don't ask. Trust me." Gina stepped back, wide-eyed but silent. Elias took Sophie's hand and guided her through a hidden back door. Down the old stone steps they went, into the private underground tunnel that connected Gina's villa to the main estate, a corridor built long ago for escape, now Sophie's shield. She shivered at the cold draft, wanting to ask more, but Elias squeezed her fingers once, a silent promise that nothing would touch her tonight. Minutes later, Sophie emerged into the warmth of Jumong's secure inner residence, her bedroom waiting, staff discreetly dismissed. She slept unaware of the trap waiting to fail outside. Outside Gina's villa, unmarked shadows drifted among the garden hedges. Kang Soo's men signaled silently, weapons holstered. They needed no violence tonight. But when they breached the empty guest wing, they found only fresh sheets and quiet emptiness. "Target gone," one man reported into the radio. "No sign. They played us." Kang Soo did not curse. He simply cut the line. His orders were clear. No more mistakes. By late evening, the sky darkened into a deep violet. Madam Lee's luxury car rolled through Jumong's gates, engine humming low like the snarl of a trapped animal. She stepped out. Jumong waited in the grand sitting room, standing beside a low table where a single tablet rested, quiet but recording. They stared at each other across the wide, silent floor. Two storms waiting to break. "So," she spat, her voice a blade, "you share secrets with your father and keep me blind? I housed you, fed you when you were filth. What is this departure? You plan to drag your shame through the world with that worthless girl?" Jumong did not flinch. His voice rolled low, each word landing like stone. "Your poison ends tonight. I know everything, and the world will too, from your own mouth." Her laugh cracked like a whip, half mad, half glorious in its pride. "Money doesn't free you from me. I can still do what I did when you were nothing. You remember? When you were 7, I abandoned you in that stinking city. 3 weeks you begged strangers to feed you. I prayed you'd die lost, but you crawled home like a flea-ridden dog." She stepped closer, breath sharp against the cold air. "You cried like a rat when I locked you in that dark room. 2 days, no food, rats bigger than your hands scratching at your filthy feet. You stood outside in snow all night once. You remember that, boy? You thought you'd freeze, didn't you? But you lived because I let you." Her mouth twisted into something crueler. "If I want, Sophie can disappear from this earth anytime I choose. Nothing you own, no father's pity, will change that." Jumong's eyes stayed locked on hers, unblinking. His rage curled silent behind his ribs, ready to break her last illusion. She spun, gathering her coat like a cloak, ready to flee with her last shred of power. "You cannot touch me, not even your money." His voice sliced through her bravado. "Stop." She froze. Behind him, a wall screen flickered on. The recording played, her words, her bragging, her threat on Sophie's life, clear, crisp, undeniable. Her face drained of blood as she watched herself become her own destruction. "In 10 seconds, Jumong said softly, deadly. "This will reach every journalist in Seoul. They will see you for what you are, the perfect lady, nothing but a monster who nearly killed a child for pride." Her knees trembled. She stumbled forward, voice breaking for the first time in decades. "Please, please, don't do this. I beg you, I will never touch Sophie. I swear on everything. I will never speak her name again, please." Jumong stepped closer. He towered over the shadow that once ruled his nightmares. "Get out of my house!" She turned, trembling, fled into the car, waiting to carry away her final shame. Soft light seeped into the master bedroom as dawn unspooled across the villa's courtyard. The last chill of the long night lifted, leaving in its wake the promise of a clean horizon. On the massive bed, Sophie stirred first, her lashes brushing her cheek as she blinked awake. Her vision focused on the man still watching her, as if sleep had no right to pull him away from the sight of her. Jumong sat propped against the headboard, hair slightly tousled, eyes warm, but shadowed by all they had conquered just hours ago. When he saw her wake, his smile was the first sunbeam she knew that day. She pushed closer into his warmth, voice still husky with sleep. "You didn't rest?" His fingers trailed along her shoulder, tracing her collarbone with absent devotion. "I rested enough. Watching you sleep has always been better than closing my own eyes." She laughed softly into his chest, the sound so gentle it seemed to bless the air between them. They lay like that a little longer, hearts unarmored, each heartbeat a quiet vow, under falling water. The bathroom was a palace of white marble and polished brass, steam already rising as he set the temperature just so, warm enough to chase away any ghost of cold, gentle enough to be a caress. Sophie stepped under first, a soft gasp at the water's embrace. Jumong followed, letting droplets trace the tension from his shoulders and back. He lifted her hair, fingers combing through the wet silk as he pressed his lips behind her ear. No words passed between them. None were needed when the entire room pulsed with a heartbeat that belonged to two souls, braided so tight the world outside could never unbind them. He washed her shoulders tenderly, his palms steady and reverent. She turned once, face lifted to the water, and their eyes locked. He saw there a quiet knowing that no more dark rooms, no more lost cities, no more threats could ever touch them again. She whispered into his mouth, water clinging to their lashes. "You feel lighter today?" He kissed her as answer, the heat and rain around them nothing compared to the warmth they found beneath each other's skin. By the time the water stilled, both were cleansed not just of the night's grime, but of the shadows that used to hide in their bones. Wrapped in fresh clothes, Sophie lingered in the bedroom, brushing out her damp hair while Jumong stepped into his private study down the hall. Elias was already there, leaning against the corner of the massive desk, scrolling through an encrypted feed on his tablet. He looked up when Jumong entered, one brow arching in lazy satisfaction. "You look like a man who finally believes he won." Jumong chuckled, settling into the high-backed chair behind the desk. "We did win. Mirrors feeds your people. It was perfect. Kang-Soo and Dartmouth never touched her. Madam Lee will never dare try again." Elias's grin was genuine, the kind reserved for the handful of people he trusted in this life. "You did more than win. You turned her own poison against her. And you should have seen Kang-Soo's face when my people boxed up their vans before they even left the district." Jumong leaned back, the weight in his shoulders replaced with something far rarer, peace. "Good. Let her cower in her dark rooms. From now on, she has no shadows left to hide behind." Elias pushed away from the desk, dropping the tablet with a satisfied thunk. "And you, boss, Dubai, does she know?" A soft warmth spread across Jumong's face, not the steel mask he wore for enemies, but the softness reserved for the woman waiting down the hall. "She knows now. I woke her myself. She still doesn't know what waits there, but she knows it's for her, all of it." Elias only clapped him on the shoulder once, a warrior's blessing in its own right. An hour later, the sleek car purred through familiar streets as morning commuters hurried along sidewalks. Inside, Sophie sat curled against Jumong's side, hands folded neatly in her lap, but eyes dancing with secret joy. He squeezed her knee gently. "I promised Dong-hyun I'd stop before we leave. And you, my flower, go inside. See Gina, see her mother. Ask what gifts you want to carry back." She laughed softly, tracing circles on the back of his hand. "I want to bring them something that smells like the sea and tastes like sunshine. Maybe scarves, jewelry. Dubai will make it easy." At Gina's gate, Jumong pressed a light kiss to her temple. She slipped out, the breeze catching her dress as she ran up the steps. And for a moment, Jumong just watched her from the car window, struck dumb by the fact that she had chosen him to trust with all her mornings. Inside Gina's quiet villa, Dong-hyun rested near the window, a blanket over his knees, the garden sunlight painting his face in gold. Jumong entered alone, the door clicking shut behind him. He approached slowly, as one does when standing before an altar, for that was what this man had become to him, proof that truth survived even the longest lies. He knelt beside Dong-hyun's chair. For a heartbeat, neither moved. Then Jumong reached forward, taking the older man's right hand in his own. "Father," he said it firmly this time, "no more uncle, no more hiding. Today I take her far, and when we return she will wear my name. My promise to you, she will never know hunger, fear, or a dark room, not while I breathe." Dong-hyun's lips quivered into a small, proud curve. Then, slowly, achingly, the second hand that once stayed limp moved. One finger twitched, then another. Then, with trembling power, all 5 fingers lifted to curl around Jumong's hand. A nod followed, slow, deliberate, and full of all the unsaid years. Jumong's throat burned as he leaned forward, pressing his forehead to the old man's knuckles. A prayer without words, a vow sealed in the warmth of skin against skin. Together, toward forever. Outside, Sophie laughed with Gina in the front garden, promising silk scarves and gold bangles. Gina's mother dabbed tears from the corner of her eye, murmuring blessings for Sophie's safe journey. When Jumong rejoined her, Sophie slipped naturally under his arm. "Ready?" she asked. eyes wide with the soft power of someone who knows she is loved beyond fear. Jumong pressed a kiss to her hair, inhaling the faint trace of rose oil he had come to crave more than breath. "Ready, my flower? Ready to begin." Hand in hand, they stepped into the waiting car, the gates of Gina's villa swinging open behind them, the road to Dubai rolling out ahead like a promise neither of them would ever break.